The January transfer window is in full flow, and as we all know, if you are a Leeds United fan and it's the January window, you're almost certainly having a look at as many names as possible and saying, oh, are Leeds United going to sign this person, or are we going to sell this person, or what's going on? Which means that you end up with a really, really, really long list of names of people that could be going in either direction, and you lose track of the rumours. However, I've done a big old list of all of the rumours that I've heard of so far this transfer window, done a little bit of research into where they're at the minute, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown so you don't need to think, oh, what happened with that thing I heard 3 weeks ago? I've got you covered. Just to warn you, I will be repeatedly glancing down because all of my stuff is on these notes, and in addition to that, if there are any weird cuts, it's because a baby has woken up. Also, like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. Anyway, diving into it. So, going to start at the back of the pitch, Illan Meslier. Everyone thought, well, Illan Meslier has to go at some point. However, it's not looking too likely that that will be in this January window because the conversation around the interest from Valencia seems to be incredibly quiet. The links are fairly loose. In addition to that, Daniel Farke was roughly asked, do you expect to keep Illan Meslier as your third goalkeeper? And he didn't exactly say, oh yeah, he's gone, he's leaving. Which is a bit weird. He seemed to sort of say no one will be leaving imminently, which is a little bit of an odd one. In addition to that, there's no suggestion that he's asked to go, which makes sense because he's currently on Premier League wages. He will be for the next 6 months, and I'll be honest, if he were to leave that sort of wage structure, he's costing himself a bit of money, he's costing himself a fairly chunky sell-on fee at his new club. It would make no sense for him to leave right now. I would like him to, but he won't, which sucks. Anyway, moving forward the pitch a little bit, Jayden Bogle. This was bollocks. There was early speculation that was like, are Everton going to sign him? I had a look at the account that had initially tweeted that, and the only thing that they had tweeted relating to Leeds was Jayden Bogle might be going, and that was after like a rage bait thing about like Dominic Calvert-Lewin might be going to Saudi Arabia. So it was purely clickbait, nothing in it. He won't be leaving for any sum of money. We will be keeping Jayden Bogle. That's not a question in the slightest. It was shot down by Daniel Farke as well. Charlie Crew has returned from Doncaster on loan. Unsure if we're going to be trying to move him on again. I don't really see him being a significant part of the main squad. In terms of midfield, I would like another midfielder. I don't know if Charlie Crew is good enough to fill that role, so I think it'll be a case of shop around, see if we can find him a move either temporarily or permanently. I don't see him being a Premier League player in the long term, as nice as it would be, but I would personally opt towards a loan just to see if we're able to sort of develop him a bit more than see if that potential is in fact there, because he's still young, he's still 18, 19, something like that. Hopefully there's something in Charlie Crew. Then you got Jack Harrison. He was named as a Valencia target a few days ago, and there is a clear sort of idea that he was contacted personally by Valencia to make something happen. However, there's been no sort of evidence and no indication that there's been conversation between the two clubs, which is sort of important when you're trying to sell a player. And with the amount of time left on Jack Harrison's contract, it's not exactly a case of he'd be able to move on a free. It would need to be one of those that is a get the move done on a permanent basis, and it would have to be with a fairly chunky fee. Doesn't look like it's going to necessarily be that, so I'm going to say that the Jack Harrison thing is maybe not super likely. It would still be nice to happen, but we know that there is still that interest that's existing from the Valencia side. Next up is Joel Piroe. There is a bit of interest in the EFL and abroad, which is very interesting. There's been, for example, a fair bit in the Eredivisie, which means that he would effectively be going home to just sort of play in that league for a while. However, we're in a weird spot where he doesn't necessarily need minutes right now to get into the World Cup. A lot of people are having this conversation like, if he does really, really well in the Premier League this season, then there's a chance that the Netherlands will have a look at him and go, you know what we could really do with you. He doesn't need to do that anymore because he's announced himself to play for Suriname, who have a spot in the World Cup playoffs. I might actually do watch-alongs for those because that would be quite interesting and a weird one. If there is an offer that comes in from these clubs, then I'm fairly sure that we would go, yeah, okay, cool. We'll have a little bit of conversation around that because I don't see him getting fairly substantial minutes this season. But Piroe himself has said to the press, I still want to do a job for Leeds United. You never know what the future holds, which is him sort of leaving the door open. But I still want to do the best for Leeds United that I can, which is a sign that he's going to stick around for me. Joe Gelhardt. Hull are keen for a permanent move. Leeds don't want to recall him because there's no real point. He's doing fairly well over there and he wouldn't really come back and take a prominent role within the squad. Bit of a shame. I really like Joffy and I think that he could have been more if he was handled a little bit better. But at the end of the day, we got where we needed to be. He is now getting regular football and will keep on developing. I don't know how long the embargo is on Hull, so I don't know when we will be able to get a fee for him, if we will be able to get a fee for him. But it would be quite nice if we could, because when you have good players with a lot of potential, they tend to be worth money. And when you're selling to someone that can't spend money, it gets a little bit pointless. There was a little bit of a conversation around Sebastian Bornau that I thought was worth talking about. There's rumours of him wanting an exit for playing time, but none of that has seemed incredibly solid. A significant proportion of that seems like the kind of thing where his agent is sort of shopping around for a little bit of interest and seeing, okay, who actually kind of fancies Sebastian Bornau? Issue is he's relatively consistently injured, which means we don't exactly get the opportunity to play him. And I think this is a thing that will be recognised. I don't see Bornau leaving for any particular reason in this January window, purely because I don't really see that much interest existing from other clubs. A couple of other players that we already have out on loan that are probably worth a little bit of discussion. Laji Ramazani, there was conversation about us using a recall clause and re-loaning him out somewhere. That is still something that I could feasibly see happening, because Ramazani is not really playing much at Valencia. He's not really proved himself in the slightest. And there's been a little bit of conversation about him not having the best attitude in training and all that kind of stuff. If he comes back, it won't be to be a part of our squad. I think if he comes back, it will be to go somewhere else. I don't know where that is, but there will be clubs looking for wingers somewhere. And I think Ramazani would fit that quite well. I don't see him coming back into the fold here. Max Fober has gotten himself injured again, and I can't see him being sold permanently, and Isaac Schmidt isn't impressing too much either, whilst he is on his little jaunt abroad. So in terms of fees coming in at the end of the season, things aren't looking spectacular at the moment, but in terms of players coming in, there's a little bit more conversation to be had. I'm going to start with the sort of looser ones. Ruben Vargas is a move that we were sort of linked with a while back. Decent attacking midfielder. We know that he's quite good at what he does. Leeds apparently asked, and this is according to the Daily Mail, but there have been very, very few reliable links since then, and not much that sort of corroborates the story. It's a case of one person has said, oh, Leeds have an interest in them, and since then it's been radio silence. So it's sort of, okay, clearly either he didn't want it or we didn't want it or the club didn't want to get rid, but that one looks like it is just stuck in the mud. Nothing's going to happen with that one. Axel Disasi is one that I also saw, Chelsea centre-back. I've not seen anything really reliable on this. I know there was a lot of sort of spiralling conversation surrounding it, and to be honest, that always felt like it was along the lines of, how do we get a headline that says £30 million player in it? And Chelsea overpaid for Disasi, because that's what they do with young players. Decent centre-back, but I've not really seen enough to say, yeah, we're definitely going to be going for this guy. Edouard Spurgeon hasn't really been linked in this window. I love Edouard Spurgeon so much, and the fact that we're not going to sign him devastates me. I might ask my Armenian friend if he's heard of anything around a Spurgeon move in this window, but it's not looking particularly likely, which is a little bit of a shame. But there's a couple of players that are looking a potential little bit more likely, and that includes McAtee. Leeds reportedly asked Nottingham Forest, but there is a chance that Forest do not want to strengthen a direct rival. At the same time, there is a potential opportunity for Forest to go, well, we're not playing him, we own him permanently now, and we're going to need him to develop a little bit this season, and they will also potentially look at the table and go, realistically, it's West Ham and Burnley that we need to not strengthen. So there's a chance that they go, Leeds, that's fine. If anything, more people pulling away from the West Ham Burnley Wolves trio is better, but I imagine they probably wouldn't do that. I don't know. Not particularly likely. Also, Chelsea are reportedly also interested, because of course Chelsea are interested in a young English player with a little bit of potential. So if it comes to a permanent move, he's more likely to go there. If it's a loan, potentially here. But we've got the rival thing to consider. We've also got the prospective move for Danilo Doki, which I talked about in a recent video. There are reports of some interest in Doki that have come from Sky. He still has 6 months on his contract, which means that he can move for free in the summer. I don't see a move being super imminent, because he played for Union Berlin on Saturday, which means that he's still a fairly significant part of the squad, and it's not a case of, well, they're back from the not international break, he's back from the winter break, and he's just gone to England to play in the Premier League. That doesn't look like it's going to be the case. But in addition to that, there is apparently a little bit of interest from Aston Villa in him, which means that if it comes to a bidding war, we probably won't get too involved, because we know that the finances aren't the strongest at the minute, and to be honest, it's not the most desperate, essential thing that we need to do. There's a chance that we sign him for free in the summer. If Aston Villa don't have that much interest and don't want to make a move right now, there's a chance that we sign him now if we're able to get that price low and Aston Villa aren't actually interested. But ultimately, I think Danilo Udogie in the immediate term is looking relatively unlikely. Outside of that, there'll be a bunch of rumours that I've forgotten to cover. But importantly, Daniel Farke said that there is no signing imminent, and he said that he doesn't see anyone leaving the squad imminently either. Which, again, we know that we've had that from many managers in the past. We had that from Daniel Farke immediately before we signed someone this summer, which means that that's not necessarily going to be something that's super reliable, but it's either a case of expectation management or it's just the truth. So, to be honest, I hope we get someone in, but I kind of trust the squad where it is now. It's a very reasonable squad. It's been performing well recently, and hopefully they continue to do so. But that is all of the rumours that I am aware of right now, and all of the updates on those. If you enjoyed the video, please pop a like on it. That's always massively appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't yet. You could even be a channel member. That's a good thing as well, because you get a bunch of videos a little bit early, depending on when I'm able to record them. This one is at 10 to 5 in the morning, which is fun. But I'm going to leave that there. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you later. Toodaloo.